I'm going to say this to you, Sophie. I am now Davina. No swearing, please. We are live. All right?
Live on Channel 4.
Well, who knows where we're live? Okay. I'm just enough of this. Okay. I'm going for it.
Okay, go on.
Hello and welcome to The Great Indoors.
The podcast which reveals everything you ever needed to know about interiors and explains how to make it all really work for you in your home.
I'm Kate Watson-Smythe.
And I'm Sophie Robinson.
And we're back. It's been a minute, as they say.
It has been a minute, hasn't it? But I think, what can I say, Kate? I've missed you. I've missed our lovely listeners. Have you missed me too?
Yes.
I won't take that.
You can't throw questions at me like that aren't scripted. Sorry, yes, I have. I have missed our chats. I have not missed the tech.
No, you haven't missed the tech. No, all the red buttons and the red lights. But we're here. I think, my numbers are going up. Are your numbers going up?
I think so, yes.
Can we still remember how to do this? It's been 7 years, Kate, we've been podcasting.
We ought to be really good at this by now.
Well, yes. So regular listeners to the podcast who are tuning in, yes, we've had a little long break. But Kate, what have we got coming up?
Well, we wanted to come back because, as Sophie says, we have missed each other and we have missed you. And we had an idea for a really brilliant 6-week series to take you right through the design process from start to finish. I don't want to call it back to basics, but that's kind of where we're at. So we're going to take in layout, planning, lighting, and then move on to colour scheming, pattern mixing and mood. And we'll end in week 6 with a big Q&A style surgery. So get ready to send in your questions as we go along and we can tackle them as we record, or we can add them at the end if there's anything we haven't covered.
And we'll put the details in the podcast show notes and also on our Facebook group on the email that you can send. What was it? What was the email? It was hello at the Great Indoors.
Pod.com, I think.
It's so dusty, aren't we? I think that's what it was. Hello at the Great Indoors podcast.com.
But you know what? You can always message us on Instagram.
You could. Oh, it's help. Help at the Great Indoors podcast. This is .com.
You can tell we've rehearsed this, can't you?
And also we'll just be here for lots of general chat and loveliness too, because we love a bit of that as well, don't we?
We do. We do. So we need to get started. So where do you start?
Okay, so you've got a project. And it could be a kitchen, bathroom, living room. We're going to be open to all areas. I tell you where you don't start. Controversial opinion. You don't start by picking a paint colour. I see that right. A lot. And I tell you what, this is a bit of a story, Kate. Brace yourself. I've got a feeling you're going to find this a bit of an overshare, but I'm going in. Earlier today, I had to go for a routine ultrasound appointment for an internal ultrasound.
Oh, okay. Okay, TMI. If you're having breakfast, I'm really sorry, people. I did not know she was going to do this. I'm
just having to take care that everything's, as it should be, as it were. Anyway, he gave me a clean bill of health. So anyone who's concerned, I can tell you it's all good downstairs. Oh, he was a terribly nice doctor. He had a lovely bedside manner. Zach was his name. And as he was giving me the examination, he said, so what are you doing after this? Are you going back to work? And I went, oh yeah, actually I'm going home to record my podcast after this. I said, I've got an interior design podcast with my friend Kate. He goes, oh, interior design, we just had a new kitchen. And I said, oh, you have you? Lovely. He goes, oh yes, we've really stuck on colours. And I gave him like a full colour consultation.
With your feet in the stirrups. Oh my God.
This is just brilliant. You literally couldn't make it up. But the lovely Dr. Zach made the common mistake was they ordered the kitchen in a reed green. He said it's a very nice mid-tone green. And now they're struggling to pick a paint colour for walls and all the other bits. And I was like, oh, Zach, you fell at the first hurdle. You've got to get all your colour palette and your ideas together from the very beginning. I said, it's not that, it's impossible. You've just made your life a lot harder. because now you don't know. They're either going for pinks or oranges, which I thought sounded fabulous. And then I actually said you can have pink and orange, Zach. You don't have to pick one. I think both would be lovely. Pale pink on the walls, a pop of burnt orange as an accent, and your green kitchen. Lovely, job done. Anyway,
so you've actually talked yourself back round in a circle, but that's a very particular example, because I totally agree with you. You're not necessarily going to move into a house and pick the paint straight away. But actually, with kitchens, that is the one example where I think people do start with a colour. That you don't necessarily want to buy it until you've planned everything out. But I think people say, oh, I've long dreamed of let's take a fashionable colour in point. I really fancy a butter yellow kitchen. So they'll get those cupboards ready. And then you have to think about what's going with it. So your point is, don't spend any money until you've planned it.
Yeah, I think the other one that we hear a lot is the sofa. Lots of people go, oh, I've always wanted a teal velvet coat sofa. I've always wanted a orange sofa, or whatever it is. And then they're like, okay, what curtains go with that? Oh, no, actually, the carpet doesn't go with the sofa. Oh, and I haven't even thought about a wall colour yet. And you can make those decisions as you go along. But I just think you've made the whole process a bit sticky, a bit hard, a bit stressful, actually. And what we're going to share with you, lovely listeners, now is how you should do it by really making most of those decisions before you even flex your credit card. You should be coming up with a bit of a plan, be it, I'm a favour of a mood board where you get your
I was just going to say that. I mean, I've written down on our notes to work out the order we were going to talk about things, and I put inspiration, but actually I put inspiration and then, which we'll get to, floor plans, but we could change that for mood boards. The point being, start first of all, with your dream mood board and colours, and check they all go together, and then you can get into your floor plans.
And there is a step even before the mood board, and that is simply asking yourself, how do you want to feel in this space? I always start every colour scheme, particularly, less about the layout, but the colours and the patterns and the feel and the styling and the artwork and everything should all feed into this overhanging kind of like the conductor, if you like, that's going to keep this symphony all playing the instruments beautifully together. Is what is the feeling? Are we going for a really sociable, vibrant, kitchen, or are we going for a really soft, relaxing, chill out end of the day, chill out after work kind of kitchen? What are you doing in there? Are you sitting there on your own with your partner having a glass of wine and a few nibbles, or are you full on kids parties, Sunday roasts because it opens on to the dining table? So you've got to really think about, what are you doing in the space? Who are you doing it with? What's the vibe?
And I suspect that for most of us, particularly the kitchen, we have, as usual, started in the most difficult place. Most people need their kitchens to do everything, because if you imagine a busy family kitchen at 8 o'clock in the morning, or, earlier, my kids are now grown up, so I don't have school run, but so I'm guessing it's probably earlier than 8 a.m. But, you've got people coming and going, and dogs to feed, and cats being sick, and, people having arguments. You need 6 people by the toaster, so on and so forth. So you need that busy, bright, sociable space. But then later on in the evening, particularly as now, I don't know if it's most people don't have dining rooms, but let's go with a lot of people have kitchens they eat in. At that point, you might want things a bit calmer. So what you need to do, Sophie's absolutely right, go in with how you feel. And then that's her first question. And my follow-up to that is to really make a note about who's using the space and what are they doing in it and when are they doing it. And those 3 questions will then help you to work out, actually, at 7 o'clock in the morning, there's 5 people in there. But at 7 o'clock in the evening, there might only be you if you're cooking. And how do you find an inspiring environment to cook in your kitchen?
And then my answer to that as well is find out which is the most important. So I think a bedroom is quite a good example of this. Now, the general opinion out there is bedrooms should be really relaxing. Our sleep's so important, and it should be somewhere to help us unwind and relax. Now, I've got a very arguably quite vibrant, full-on bedroom.
It's quite busy.
Yeah, it's quite busy. I've got a very, very densely patterned wallpaper. I've got a multicoloured striped headboard, and I've got about 9 different floral prints all bobbing against one another.
I ain't sleeping in there.
No, you're not sleeping in there. But for me, my bedroom isn't really somewhere I unwind at night. I tend to do that in the living room, or I might sit in the conservatory, and that's where I chill out. And then I'm upstairs, lights out, small lamp on to read a book, headphones to do a meditation, whatever, and I'm gone. I'm not really hanging out to relax in my bedroom, but in the mornings, I do like spending time in my bedroom in the mornings, getting dressed, putting my makeup on, doing my hair. On a weekend, I might go downstairs, make myself a coffee, go back upstairs, have a scroll in bed. So it's a happy morning space. So for me, I saw most of my enjoyment in my bedroom as more of an uplifting, flamboyant type of experience, and especially the getting dressed bit, like, you know, hair, makeup, putting my clothes on. I just wanted to feel fabulous, and 50 Shades of Taupe were not going to do that for me. And I understand that the restful blues and the warm creams and the shell pinks that get touted around as beautiful bedroom schemes because they're very relaxing would just make me feel meh if I was getting ready to go out on a Saturday night.
This is why you need to ask these questions, because obviously we all have different reactions to colours. So the one thing people often say is, are you a night owl or a morning lark? And some people want their bedrooms to be dark and cocooning and cosy so they can sleep. I think they look beautiful in photographs like that. But what I've realised over the years is if my bedroom is dark and cosy and cocooning at night, I can't get out of bed in the morning. So that's not going to work for me, because I need a driver to get me going. Now, unlike Sophie, my driver is not flamboyant colours. My bedroom also has wallpaper, also actually has quite a busy wallpaper, but it's sort of brown and cream.
It's very tonal as well, isn't it?
It's very tonal. It's kind of brown and cream, but a busy floral pattern, but only in 2 colours. And then I have pink skirting boards and woodwork and cream velvet curtains and a green headboard. So I've got a bit of dark green in there to kind of punch it up a bit, but it is behind me. So I'm not giving myself a shock. And what happens for me in that bedroom is it's light enough and pale enough for me to feel, oh, morning's here, I'm going to get up. But I'm not opening my eyes and going, oh, dear God, what is that pattern coming towards me? Which is what would undoubtedly happen if I slept in Sophie's bedroom. This way, I can open my eyes and it's kind of light and morning. I do not have blackout curtains, actually, for that specific reason. I don't want to wake up in the dark, because then I find the light, I can't get at the light. So I have thermal linings, because that helps in winter. But by about 6-7 o'clock in the morning, there is a certain amount of light shining through my pale cream velvet curtains. Not enough to wake me up, but it's just, in theory, this is my circadian rhythms. It's just a bit more nuanced. And at that point, then I'm ready to get up. I also, unlike Sophie, and I will say this, Sophie has a very, very big bedroom. There is a lot of room to dance around and stamp your silver cowboy boots and swirl your skirts. I haven't got that much space in mine. So mine, I'm a bit like, I want to get dressed. I want it very functional. So I want to feel nice with the calm tonal colours, which can be quite saturated, but I then need it to be functional. I need to know that I can reach my makeup there, my clothes are there, I can get dressed, and I'm in on out of there. I do not come back to bed with a cup of coffee having gone downstairs. Once I've gone downstairs, it's a one-way street. I'm then in the next place for the coffee. Yeah, and so then I'm at my kitchen table. So then we're back in the kitchen, and how are you decorating that? So yes, it's all about how you want to feel. But the key point,
it's all about how you want to feel. And this is so interesting, Kate, is how are you using space? I mean, isn't that interesting just already, the way we use our bedrooms?
Yeah. So that question, what are you going to do? Who's in there? What are they doing in there? And when are they doing when are they doing it in there? Because the point being, firstly, with colour, pick the mood that matches you want. So you want to feel that you can get up and face the day from a different end of the colour spectrum from me. So you pick the colour. We might both have pink. You've got some strong pink in your stripy headboard. I've got some very pale pink on my woodwork. So for me, the mood I want of relaxed and ready to face the day is a pale pink. For you, the mood that gets you out of bed and ready to crack on with it is a strong pink. So pick your colour by all means.
It's not even about the colour, it's the tone as well, isn't it?
Exactly. Work out the shade that gives you the mood. So if you want a green bedroom, do you want a vibrant emerald green bedroom or a muted, soft, pale green bedroom? Which one is going to put you in the mood you need? And that other question, when, that will talk to your lighting. And in the kitchen, where you might want all those moods we've talked about, I'm going to say your friend is a dimmer switch. And lights on different circuits.
Before we move on to more of the practicalities, because I know that's coming up, on this note of colour nuance, the tone of colour, are you an emerald green or are you a sage green? Are you a plaster pink or are you a fuchsia pink? Same colour, very, very different vibes for those. I think you've really got to do the personal work on these. You've got to really look at the colour, look at Pinterest, visit some spaces, visit some friends' houses, go and stay in some hotel rooms. I think that's an excellent bit of research before you decorate your house, and work out what tones suit you. And interestingly, I did a panel talk recently at Clerkenwell Design Week, and this question came up on how you feel confident. How do you get colour confidence? And it's so important to get it right, because I think, you know, going back to poor Zach and his kitchen and not being able to choose what colour, it's through lack of knowledge. Actually, they don't really understand how colours to go together.
He's never been interested until he had to pay for a kitchen, and at this point suddenly he can see the dollar bills going around. He's going, I better get interested in this, because once I'm doing it, I ain't changing it again. And that's probably quite a consideration.
True, it's so true. But I think, you know, like anything that we tackle in life, we get educated, don't we? Yeah. Like, you know, if I had to suddenly cook a Persian meal for 20 people, I wouldn't wing it. I'd either go and ask somebody who's really good at Persian cooking.
You get the caterers in, let's be honest.
Well, no, I actually would. I know, I'm even listening to myself talking, going as if this is ever a scenario that's likely to happen. Or, you know, I'd buy a cookery book, or I'd listen to an excellent podcast with two leading experts who would give me all the insights I needed. But I think it's people shouldn't expect. I think people get really hard on themselves and think, why aren't I getting this? I should know what paint colour, I should know what goes together. No, it's difficult. Yeah. And as we've said, we can't even tell you, should your bedroom be green or pink? It's up to you. Yeah, but you've got to do a little bit of digging. You've got to invest some time and energy into understanding your own relationship with colour. I feel really passionately about that.
And there are so many different ways to do it. As you've mentioned, you can go on Pinterest. By all means, pin all the bedrooms you want, whether that's a bedroom you could have or whether it's a hotel room in the Maldives overlooking the ocean and you can't actually transport that into your 3-bedroom semi. But the point is, pin the pictures you like, but actually then take a moment to look at the colours. Just have a little look at it. Why is that appealing to you for a bedroom? Is it actually the blue of the ocean, or is it the kind of airy muslin curtain that's wafting in the breeze? Is that the kind of feel you want? And if that's the feel you want, how are you going to get that light and airy feeling? Because at which point you've stepped straight away from the emerald green, because that's not going to be the relaxing colour. Or, you know, you have to, I hate calling it work. I hate that phrase, do the work, because it feels for me as if it's sucking the joy out of everything. So rather than calling it work, let's just say, you know, make yourself a cup of tea, a gin, a cup of coffee, whatever it is, depending on the time of day. And just think, you know what, I'm going to have 20 minutes, here's another phrase I hate, of me time. But I'm going to look on my computer, I'm going to look in a magazine, and I'm just going to take a few moments to relax and look at some colours and see how I feel. You could do it when, I've just seen on the video, we're now videoing, if this ever works, and Sophie's got yellow nails at the moment. So, you know, if you're going to have your nails done, have a look at all the colours on the wall. I mean, they'd probably be brighter than bedroom colours, but you'll get a sense of, you know, do I feel? I mean, a friend messaged me this morning, actually. She's just painted her kitchen pale pink. And she says she loves it. So we've had a long conversation about which pinks. And she has a navy blue sitting room. It's denim by Farrow and Ball. So it's not deep navy. It's denim, isn't it? It's a sort of dark denim colour. And she's had a yellow sofa, and she's had it for years. And she messaged me this morning to say, my kitchen is pink and pale pink and relaxing, and I love it. She said, but I've just walked into the sitting room and had a visceral reaction to the yellow and blue, and I need you to come round and help me buy a new sofa. So, I mean, tastes change, but it's also interesting because she's now perhaps more in tune with that the pink kitchen is making her feel relaxed, and the strong colour contrast between the blue and the yellow in the sitting room, which she thought was cosy and enveloping and relaxing, is actually making her now feel quite stressed. So take the time, do the work, take some me time, have a look at colours
and get back to
reaction.
basics. Should we just throw that in there as well? And that's 3 things that it's now made you feel really uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Getting back
exactly.
to basics, taking some me time to do the work.
Right. So we've looked at the colour. I'm moving on. I think you've got people
so
who
I've got
now
my
have enough
inspiration.
sense.
I've done my mood board. I've picked my colours. I always think 3, by the way. I'm just going to throw that out there as a random colour. Pick 3 colours, a main colour, a secondary colour, and a small accent colour.
Well, for other people, which actually can be a useful rule. Bear in mind, all the rules, when you know them, are made to be broken. So these are guidelines. But if you're worrying about the proportion of colour, there is I never get my sums right here, the 60-30-10 rule. So your 60 rule will be the biggest amount of any given colour, which for the sake of argument is probably going to be your walls. Your 30% might be the sofa and chairs or the kitchen cupboards. It's the next biggest block of colour. And then your 10%, think of that, maybe as your earrings or your socks. That's the little
That's
accent.
your lampshade, your cushion, your vase, your art piece.
It's another phrase I hate. That's your pop of colour.
Oh gosh, we are hitting all the icks today.
We're hitting all the icks today.
We need an ickometer. I bet you hate the word ick as well, don't you?
No, I don't mind that because I have it so often. I've had to come to terms with that word.
Yeah.
Right. So we've done the inspo. So you made the other point to make is all these things change. You can come into your place, your new room or house or whatever, with an idea of the colour palettes you want. That may change as the work starts, and that's okay because you haven't spent any money yet. And as you're getting to know the place, you're refining these things. But roughly speaking, you've got your inspiration, you know the look and style and feel you're going for. So there you are, you're confronted by a floor plan, and this is actually where we start.
Yes. Wow. So this is really interesting because I think a lot of professionals say to start with a floor plan, and I'm hearing that from you. Would you start a floor plan before you even look at colours?
Well, I probably would because I love a floor plan, and I do think that colours to a certain extent can't be finalised until you've been in the space and seen, all worked out whether it's north facing or south facing. I think that about layout
as well. I think it's really tricky to do a really good layout as well until you've been in the space and moved around. Yeah. And in terms of layout, do you know what I love to do, which is so old school, but it's really... Maybe it's because I am so old school, because I know now everybody's doing it on SketchUp and all these other
That's because you don't know
things.
How.
I don't. I'll get Arthur to do it. He's brilliant on SketchUp. I like masking tape and cardboard boxes.
I thought you were going to say cutting out little pieces of paper and putting them on.
No, I can do that. Yeah, I have done that, but I probably do that less because unless I'm getting certain things made and I need to like joinery and stuff. But no, what I did in my kitchen when I was trying to work out where the island should go and how big it should be, I got masking tape out on the floor and I masked out the side of the island, and then I put my dining chair, I masked out where the dining table was going to go. Then I brought in my chairs to check, on paper I should have enough room to walk between the island and the chairs. But actually, when I put the boxes where the islands were going to be and I put the chairs where the chairs are going to go, I was like, I actually don't feel like this is enough space for me. I want it to feel more spacious. And so I made the island 30 centimetres smaller than was on the... Because on the floor plan, as in the nice fancy SketchUp, it looked like there was enough space. But I was in the room and I masked it out and I walked around. I was like, no, I think I need a bit more.
You have to be able to do that because there are other it can be difficult to have enough boxes. I remember doing that in our last house, and we were trying to mark out where the island would go because we knew our space was very tight. So ours was more, have we got enough space for the island? Can we get past the end of the island and still open the fridge door? So we were into that. So we had 4 bits of wood that the builders had left lying around on the dirt floor, and there were 4 of us. We had friends around, and we were having we were drinking Aperol and putting the holes in place, and then we were all kind of moving around and seeing if we could get around the space and then edging it back. But so doing it in real life is a really good idea. But the other thing to remember, because I'm also a big fan of starting with graph paper and, you know, putting it on there.
And a nice sharp pencil and a ruler. It's
nice sharp
satisfying, isn't it?
Understanding that, you know, some standard measurements, and you can get those all over the internet. So, you know, I'm not going to go through them all here, but, you know, a kitchen unit is about 600 square, 60 centimetres. In an ideal world, you probably want a metre for a chair to pull out from a dining room table. A standard door, for example, is anywhere between 72 and 76. That's very standard. So that just gives you a sense. I've got in my slightly walk-in closet in my bedroom, we've got 90 centimetres, so that's less than the recommended 100, but it's wider than a door. And so sometimes you need to just understand what the minimum is and then see how you feel, and can you have less? Do you want two people going through that space? And the other thing I think is really key, and this is perhaps where your island and your chairs came into play, is that the back of the chair might have been as a similar height to the island. So that's going to make the space feel more blocked in because you've got two solid things coming up against each other. When I was planning my bedroom, we've got just about a metre at the end of the bed to the wall, and that in a bedroom feels quite small. But our bed doesn't have an end board. So actually, although the space you're walking through is quite narrow, because the bed is low and big, you don't feel constrained. If we had a four-poster bed or a bed with a tall footboard, that metre between the end of the bed and the wall would feel much smaller. So it's also... you know, if you can do it with cardboard boxes and masking tape, it's really good. But just bear in mind, are you sitting on a stool or a chair with a hollow back or a solid back? And, you know, is that a solid island or an overhang? So I'm now making it sound there's like a lot to consider, but actually there isn't. When you get in there, you understand it and it's not daunting. These are just things to bear in mind as you plan.
Yeah, and I suppose it comes back to like even just coming up with your inspiration, your mood board, and the feeling is again imagining how you're going to use the space. You know,
that's so key.
Is your living room somewhere where literally everyone's sitting there mute, staring at a telly because it's just an evening TV room? We have a TV snug at home, and we only use it in evenings, and we're all just there gawping at the goggle box. That's the point of that room. We call it the TV snug. I'm lucky that I have a secondary space, which is our conservatory, which doesn't have a TV in, and that has the furniture facing one another with a footstool in the middle. And that's where I'd take friends if I've got my girlfriends coming around for a cup of tea, or that's where we spend Christmas, for example, playing charades, what have you. And that layout is designed in a horseshoe shape for everybody to sit opposite one another and talk.
And actually that flow is really key, and the visualising, because I think some people find it difficult to visualise themselves in a space. So, you know, one way to do that is to visualise, think about what you're doing in that space. We're back to that what question again. So if you're in the sitting room, you're absolutely right. Are we all sitting there static watching TV? Or, you know, and the other temptation is in sitting rooms, people often put their sofas to the back. With its back to the wall. And then what you find is that if you've got a sitting room where people are walking through it, they're going to be walking between you and the coffee table every few minutes to get to the chair or whatever. So that becomes a passage. So think about maybe if it's a chatting room, bringing your sofa in a bit closer to the coffee table. And does it work if there's a passage behind the sofa? So that if someone's coming in Sophie's TV snug, for example, there's a door to the garden. Now it's a small room, so people are going to have to walk in front of the screen if they're coming in through that door. That's
passageways. You're right. Entrance
really
and
important.
Exits is also really important.
And again, in the kitchen, can you get from your table to your dishwasher with an armful of dirty plates in an easy, unimpeded way, tripping over the dog aside, to load the dishwasher? Or are you having to go, because of where you've put the dishwasher or where your architects put the dishwasher, are you having to walk around the island and come at it from the wrong direction? So think about what you're doing in the space and just see, how am I getting from A to B? Does it work? Can people walk around? Can I get this off that shelf? You know, that's why when you're planning, you know, if I'm going to make toast, Is there space for the bread bin? Do people have bread bins still?
Yes, I have a bread bin.
I have a bread bin.
I have a bread bin and a washing up bowl.
That's a whole different conversation.
We've
I
had
have
that
neither.
one. That's
We've
an
had
old
that one.
episode.
That is in an old episode.
Do you know what, though?
Go
Kitchens, I think, are probably, this is where you can get nerded out on layout more than anything. And anybody who's bought a house that already has a kitchen, which I have done with every single home I've got, this house that I'm currently in is the first time I've got to really plan my own kitchen. Otherwise, I've had to inherit them in the houses I moved into. Knows how annoying it is when things are in the wrong place. And again, I spent a long time with Magnet did my kitchen. So the lovely Jen from Magnet, who was my kitchen designer, telling her how I use my kitchen. And I wanted the cutlery drawer, the plates and the glasses and the mugs all to be in a cabinet next to the dishwasher. Because I love nothing more than opening the dishwasher, taking it out the dishwasher
and frisbeeing the plates across the room.
Yeah, I don't even have to move. It just it comes out and it goes in. It doesn't even have to go on the worktop or anything. So that was really important to me. And then it was also really important to me that the bin, for example, was right next to the sink and the chopping and the prep area. So I can literally get all the rubbish, scoop it, go straight into the bin off the worktop. And again, I'm not having to travel with it. I mean, we all know about the sink, the hob, the fridge kind of being close to one another. But I think it's all these other little things that, my bread bin is on a shelf above the toaster. So they're next to one another. So I think, again, it's just thinking of your daily rituals in a kitchen and
you're transferring
it
to, we could do whole episodes, whole books have been written on kitchen planning. But again, to take that back to the sitting room, visualize yourself for just sort of pulling a scenario. You come in from work. Are you going into the sitting room with a glass of wine? Are you then going to sit on the sofa? Where's the table to put the glass of wine on? Do you want to put your feet up on an ottoman? Where's the remote control lift so you can turn the telly on or off? Are you close to the fire if that's going to be lit? It's just about, I love making a list. Other people might just do it in their head, but just think about the daily things you do in that particular room. So, that makes, again, lighting's the whole thing I'm sure we'll come on to, but in your bedroom, is there a socket so you can turn your bedside light on and off? Do you like to read books? Do you need a bedside table?
I'm going to pause you there to segue you into lighting and electrical plans, because I think it's important that it sits here in our Where to Start episode, because if you don't think about it at the beginning, once those walls are plastered and painted,
it's a nightmare. Yeah.
And I said this to Zach this morning during my ultrasound. I said, I really hope you've already done your electrics and your lighting.
Oh God, don't tell me Sid no.
Because it's, that's the thing. This is really expensive stuff to retrofit once you've already done it. So if you're in a renovation stage, where quite often if you're doing a kitchen refit, are you quite normally with a kitchen, you're going to have to bring in an electrician and things are going to need replastering. It's really important to do the layout first, and then you know where to tell the electrician to put the plugs. So
exactly
absolutely, Kate, it's making sure you've got sockets either side of the bed. You've got sockets for charging the phone next to the sofa where you're scrolling away all night. You've got lighting in the right position to light the areas that need lighting, be that artwork that needs lighting. You might want to light your kitchen island or your living room footstool. You want to make sure there's no lights burning your eyeballs as you're sat on the sofa or lying in bed. So it's almost getting the lights in not being in the wrong position is almost as important as making sure they're in the right position, which is why can I just have my little annual rant about recessed downlighters in a grid. No.
That one. That old chestnut.
I know, but I just feel we might have some new listeners, and I just want to make sure anybody who's heard me say this many times before, I'm just reaffirming something I feel strongly about. If you've bought a house that a developer's done, chances are your lighting's already in the grid, and my commiserations are with you because it's very expensive to change. If you're at the renovation stage and you can do your layout, light your house to suit the layout. Like the room to suit the layout, not to be a neat grid. And you will have an argument with your electrician, I guarantee it, because I've had one with every single one and I still continue to do so, because for some reason they've picked up the myth that all downlighters should go in a grid. And they'll say to you, but how can you not have them in a grid? Because then they won't look all like in neat lines. And I'm like, well, I'm not lying on the floor, staring at my ceiling, checking if my lights are in a straight line. That's not how I
Well, and the point being that if it's really good, I mean, I actually read something on Instagram today to say, you know, it's really hard to spot good design. And the reason it's hard to spot good design is because it should be so good you're not noticing it. Bad design is what you spot.
Ooh.
And lighting is the same. You shouldn't really be thinking about where the lights are. You should simply be aware that you can see what you want to do. And there should be no more thought given to it apart from that. So, you know, that's the point. It's not about a grid because you might have
shouldn't even notice
one over
the
the oven.
downlighters.
Exactly. You might have one over the oven and one over a worktop and one close by. You might end up with an isosceles triangle of lighting, and that's fine as long as you can see what you're doing. The only time I think you want to notice lights is if you're walking into a room and there's perhaps a particularly beautiful light fitting, might not even be on. That's the point at which you're going, wow, that's amazing.
Like a lovely chandelier or beautiful wall sconces or a stunning lamp.
But otherwise, good lighting is sort of supposed to be invisible. Hello, Lucy.
That is Lucy. That is my little 3:15 noise to say that she'd like her dinner soon. She started off having her supper at 5, and 5 o'clock was when we fed the dog. And then she chipped it down to 4. So now I'm like, okay, 4 o'clock she gets her dinner. She's now chipping it down closer to 3. But I will have this standoff with her. There's no way she's been fed at quarter past 3.
Does she have one meal a day or two?
One. Well, she has a bit of kibble in the morning, is a bit of brekkie, and then she has her main dish in the evening. But that's what she's doing. She's barking at the door going, I'm quite hungry now, thanks.
Is she going to bark for 45 minutes?
Well, if she carries on, I'll go and lock her in a different room. Cheeky madam, isn't she?
She is a cheeky madam. She just wants to be back on the podcast like the old days.
I think so.
So, yes, so we were basically saying your floor plan, your layout, so you know where to put the lighting. That's really key. And I mean, you know, the point about putting your lighting in with your fixed lighting is actually most of us haven't got 36 places where the sofa can go. So it's, you know, don't panic that, oh, but I've put the lighting here because this is where my sofa and coffee table goes. You probably haven't got enough room to move it around a lot, and she's really going for it. Lucy,
right,
be quiet.
I'm going to go and kick her out. Hold that thought.
Well, I'm just going to carry on talking because I've got to fill the air, because we are now doing this podcast in a more informal, chatty way. So there's not going to be lots of producer action and edit. So now I'm on an episode of Just a Minute where I've got to keep talking without hesitation, deviation or repetition until Sophie comes back to keep it going. And there we did it. I've just played an episode of Just a Minute with myself, kept on talking without hesitation, deviation or repetition until you came back. And the point I was making was, yes, about the lighting. You can't move your furniture around, but don't panic, because, you know, I did this whole house in Italy and we did the electrics and we went all through, and we were, to a large extent, trying to save money by, you know, rewiring the sockets in the same place they were. But we've got this big sitting room on the top floor, and it wasn't until, because, you know, mistakes get made and things get overlooked, wasn't until the room was finally finished that we realised that actually all the sockets were on 2 sides of the room. And there's a dark corner. And I was a bit like, do you know what? We'll buy an extension cable. Turns out we need an extension cable of 10 metres. You can't get them. So we have bought, and this is a lifesaver, the battery rechargeable light. Ooh. They are so improved now. They are so much better than they were. I've got a rechargeable floor lamp from Pookie. It sits in the corner, gives a little bit of ambient light. But maybe this is an exclusive scoop or not, I don't know. I saw them at a book launch last night, and they said to me they're doing more floor lights which give out brighter lights.
That are rechargeable?
Rechargeable.
And how long does a charge last?
Well, I think it's supposed to last about 8 hours, so it's an evening, you know, and then you can plug it in overnight when you've gone to bed and it'll be fine the next day. This is also a great thing in kitchens where I really like kitchens, and I know you do too, where if you've got space for what you might actually call a sort of more decorative table lamp on your worktop, that's really nice if that's a room that you're dining in and hanging out in and not just being a functional kitchen. But sometimes you've planned all your sockets and you've got the toaster and the air fryer and the fridge and everything else. You haven't got any more sockets for a table lamp, or it's in the wrong place. Battery rechargeable lamps. They'll save us. And you could do wall light ones as well.
Wow, really
so that's for when you've made the mistake. It's not going to work all over the house.
If you're not in the renovation phase and you're not about to change all your sockets and your lighting, and you can't get lights in the right place. And you can also get wall lights as well now that hang on the wall and have a decorative cable that come down.
So you just plug them in.
Because I love a wall light, but again, if you're not putting your wall lights in before you plaster and decorate, you can't.
We've actually got those by the bed. We've got two angle poise lamps by Margaret Howell. And they're fixed on the wall, so they angle a bit. They're quite a short arm.
And
they've got a coloured cable which just plugs in by the bed. So I've got a double socket on either side of the bed because we were starting from scratch. So they're the double sockets you now get with the USB cable in.
Yes, I have them. Yeah.
So I've got a double one. So on one of those plugs, I've got my plug-in wall light, which hangs down. On the other one, I've got my clock radio. Bit Gen X there, clock radio, and then I've got two USB sockets, one of which is for my phone overnight, and the other one is for my Kindle and occasionally my toothbrush.
That's
there you go.
Fascinating insight into the bedroom rituals of Kate Watson's Vibe.
I feel that was quite a rude comment you made there.
But shall I tell you about my bedroom rituals? So I've got a big lamp because I wanted a big lamp as a style statement. But what I'm finding, Kate, is actually it's just a bit too bright when when I've got my meditation, or I might be wearing my LED mask lamp.
Have you got one of those? We're now in a whole different podcast. Yeah. I really want to get one. Does it make a difference?
I don't know because I keep forgetting to use it regularly. So, but
right, check back on episode 2 and we will update you on the LED
I'm trying to get into a
mask.
better bedroom routine. So now, if you can picture this, I've got my LED face mask on, my big headphones, and I'm listening to my meditation audios.
None of those things need plugging in though, do they, or do they?
No, they're all battery operated, all of those.
Right.
So they're all rechargeable. They're all rechargeable things. But then I've got my bedside lamp and it's a bit bright. And sometimes I think what I would like, and you see them a lot in hotels, is those tiny little reading lights. They're usually like on just like
like a worm.
A bendy, tubey worm wire. And they're very subtle. They're not very pretty, but they're really subtle. And I think I quite like one of those. And actually, maybe they do plug-in ones. And then I could add
I don't know,
that
but
and just have it next to I'm going to look into that. So, even with the best plans or the best laid plans, we still need little tweaks, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. And the point, I think, of this podcast, if nothing else, is to help you understand that, you've got to stop putting yourself under pressure to get it all 100% right from the start, because you won't. And you'll end up, using the space in a slightly different way from the way you thought you were going to, or you'll discover...
things evolve. I wasn't listening to meditations on my headphones when I did my bedroom.
Well, exactly. And, you might not have an air fryer now, but then you might get one, and suddenly that needs another socket.
Have you got an air fryer?
We've got a really tiny one that my son made us buy, and we don't use it very often. But it's one of those things, the thing they say about kitchen gadgets is if they live in a cupboard, you'll never use them. Actually, I slightly disagree with that. We've got a small air fryer and a small rice cooker, and we use them both a couple 2 or 3 times a month, and they come out of the cupboard when we want to use them and go away when we don't. So they're not so big that they're removable.
I'm really tempted by the air fryer because my stepmom, she now doesn't use the oven at all. She just air fries everything. And every time we go and stay with her, we have really delicious food.
Yeah.
She does these really nice cheese and chili jam toasties in it that Arthur loves. I have to say, I love them too. I mean, you can literally do everything in there.
Yeah, you can. They're really
roast
clever.
Potatoes. She has the most gorgeous chicken. And she air fries the chicken and then shreds it and puts it in a curry or puts it in a salad. Or
I think you've got to have quite a big one. I mean, ours will do sort of one portion of chips, or we've used it for if we want to make spring rolls or something. So it's got 6 spring rolls in it. It's really diddy, but we sort of bought it to see if we would use it. And actually, we use it enough for the small amount that it does, and we're not quite. I mean, I watched the Jamie Oliver program. He's got whole programs of using an air fryer.
Oh, has
and
he?
At the end of every one we watch, I say to my husband, "Oh, we need to get one." But the reality is, we haven't, and I'm not sure that we will. But we're quite happy with the small one.
Yeah, I worry that I wouldn't use it enough.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous from someone like me, because I'm always buying things I never use again. I'm such a terrible impulsive shopper.
But again, that's back to those questions of planning your kitchen. I remember I had some friends who planned a whole kitchen, and he was obsessed with having a teppanyaki grill.
Oh, does anybody ever use them?
Well, this is a man that doesn't cook. He only eats fish fingers. It's like, why have you done that? So there's, so there is the whole status symbol kitchen. That's a different thing. Well, he probably could, but he didn't. Not only did he not, he's now divorced because she didn't want a teppanyaki grill. So, you need to be realistic. That. Yes, that's a different show. But be realistic about the gadgets you want or the gadgets you'll use. And the other key point, because I think we're probably wrapping up on this where to start now, but the key point is, if space is permitting, when you plan your wardrobe or your kitchen cupboards, make sure you've got enough for the things you haven't bought yet. You are going to buy more shoes. Where are you going to put them? Unless you're doing, or maybe you should do a one in, one out. In your kitchen cupboards, you are going to get a lot more Tupperware because you're going to lose half of the first lot and you're not going to know where to put the other bit. So where are you going to store all the lids when you've lost all the bases? Think about, there's an element of future-proofing, which is a whole different subject, but just be realistic. If you've only got space to store 6 mugs and you go on holiday and fall in love with a beautiful pottery crafted mug.
Oh, it's not just me that does that. I always come home with a mug.
Yeah, so are you going to get rid of the old mug to make a space for it? I think 6 mugs is enough for most people.
I've got about 20 mugs.
Yeah, I've got more than 6, but
my mugs are, and I don't have any matching mugs. My mug drawer tells a story of my life.
Well,
I've got mugs in my mug drawer that I got to leave home with when I went off to Brighton Uni. I bought some mugs,
amazing,
and I think I had 6 and I've still got 2 of them left. Isn't that amazing? That's like 25 or more years ago.
They should probably just go in a glass cabinet now. They're vintage. You could sell them on eBay as vintage mugs. Anything over 20, 25 years is vintage. But again, you also need to choose, if something's got a place, then it's a curation, it's a collection. If it hasn't got a place, it might be clutter. And if it's clutter, you need to think about whether you really want it or whether you want to get rid of it.
I think that's a whole other episode, Kate.
Yes, I think you're right.
I think
we'll come back
really
to that one.
like to dig into that because I'm about to do a big life declutter. So should we save that for another episode?
Yes, come back. Well, on that note, I think
on that note, it's clear to me that after taking such a long break from the podcast, we still haven't run out of things to talk about, have we?
There you go.
Look at us go. Look at us go. Like we've been doing this every week forever and a day.
So there you go. There was a very non-basic episode for your where to start. So we just to loosely make sure we got everything in. We've done the inspiration, we've done colours, we've done the questions you should ask, how you want to feel, the floor plans, and we've dipped into a bit of lighting and clutter.
Yeah, and had a nice catch up too. What do we got? What are we doing next week, Kate?
Next week, the idea will be that having now got your plans in place, when do you go on to the next thing? So you've already, you've given a function to each room. We're going to talk a little bit more about flow. I really need to talk about doors because it's my specialist subject.
Doors and flow.
Doors and flow and flooring, and, we'll go a little bit more into the lighting. There's so much to get into. We're going to take you through this renovation. We are with you.
We are with you every step of the way. Well, it's lovely to be back. As I said, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love your own design dilemma. So if you've got something that you're working on at the moment that you are stuck with and you want to ask me and Kate your question, we love a voice note. Really easy to record a voice note on your phone and simply email it in, or otherwise write into us at help@thegreatindorspodcast.com. We'd love to hear from you. You can also drop onto our Facebook group, The Great Indoors, where everyone's chitter-chattering over there. Or as Kate's already mentioned, do come and see us on Instagram. I'm Sophie Robinson Interiors.
I don't even know what I am. Mad about the house.
You don't know what... Oh my... She needs to go and have a lie down.
Oh, well, I thought you were going to give me a prompt on that. Yeah, I'm mad about the house with underscores
with all
between
those
each
little
word.
underscores.
Yeah, it's really, that's why it's annoying. It's annoying then. There we go. Right, well, that's been lovely.
Yeah,
we will
thanks,
see you
mate.
all next week for some more.
And until then, we'll see you in the great indoors.